Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. It's Sunday Comics now. That means we take a comic and we do a deep dive, just talking about it. Just you, me, and a comic, and a cup of coffee, and a cup of soda, and a messy, messy desk. So, how's everybody doing? As usual, I filibuster. Hey, Jimmy is here. Jimmy is here. Why is Jimmy important? Jimmy and I have been friends since third grade. He's one of my steadfast players in my Villains Vigilante. He's probably the guy who plays the most. He's got a bunch of characters, and believe it or not, one of his characters was Lucius Kane, the Suit. He came up with the concept, the name, and then I came up with the powers, and then I threw him in the comic. So there you go. Jimmy's got a bunch of characters that will be showing up in Heroic Tales. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Heroic Tales is based on my role-playing game, which is using the Villains and Vigilantes system. So the Patriarch he's never been in the game. I made him up for the comic book, but same with Mary Sue. But there's mostly everybody else has been in my world campaign. So there you go. Jimmy's got a major character who will be showing up, I think, in his first appearance will probably be Heroic Tales 4, and then quickly in Heroic Tales 3, but you might not recognize him as the same character. There you go. Old Dirty Fatty says hello. I don't know why your name. I know why your name makes me giggle, because I'm a child. JP Fawn says good morning. How you doing, JP? Hey, Dave Brink is here. Hello. How's everybody doing? Dave, as everybody knows or should know, is he's Genuine Comics. He does Perfect 10 and Earthling and Power Trip. So good. So good. My words are coming out faster than my brain can think the words. But just really, I urge you, if you like my stuff, you're gonna love Dave's stuff. I hope that my comics will be someday compared to Dave's comics. They're so good. As I take a sip of coffee, got to get the caffeine in my system. I stayed up way too late last night. I was on Yellow Flash's channel. He invited me, and I came on. And it was a big panel with a bunch of people, and I always get a little nervous. Like, am I talk? Because I talk a lot. Am I talking too much? Am I making a hog of myself? Is he ever going to invite me back? So, like, I kind of just had to read the room. He said I did really good, so I hope he invites me back. That was a lot of fun. Made a couple of sales. I'll talk about that later. Hey, we got Stippling Vaughn over here. Stippling showed me the pencils for page 1 of the Printer's Devil. So good. When he asked if we could work together, I thought about it. I was like, yes, I got the perfect project for you. And it was such serendipitous. Is that the correct word? Serendipitous timing? Because a month or two ago now, I literally woke up with 2 stories fully formed in my head. And I was like, I need somebody who could draw like post-Revolutionary War America. And then Stippling reached out. And then I was already talking with Luke Stone, and I think it was RJ Williams who's on my channel. He has a comic called Call Sign Orion. And I was like, who does this art? He's like, Luke Stone. I'm like, I always liked Luke's art, but he leveled up, man. I mean, it is like, it's getting there to be like classic John Byrne. It's leveling up. And I was like, this would art would look perfect for my other comic, The Sleeper Agent. Sleeper Agent, when I say fully formed, that was like 90%. I had to change the ending because the ending was it's very similar to another movie that I've seen, and I'm glad that I changed it because the new ending gives the Sleeper Agent some pathos. So I asked Luke if he wanted to do it, and he was like, "Sure." So there you go. Creative Welshman is here. How you doing? The Welshman cometh, and the Welshman taketh away. I got a bunch of Dave comics. Funny story on how I got them. Okay. Does it involve going to a website and buying them? I might be changing my name for the studio show on Your Dirty Daddy. You're good on streams, John. You're a natural. Thank you. I told you when I started doing this for like 2 years, I just did pre-recorded videos, 10 minutes a day on my phone, wobbly. It was garbage. And then I didn't even think of like do it live. I didn't think I could. Well, for the longest time you can't. You have to hit like some sort of threshold before you're allowed to do live. And then I started doing live. And then somebody reached out to me. It was like, "Oh, you're a natural. I want to do a talk show about comic books, and I'd like you to be the host." And I just jokingly said, "Can I quit my job and just talk about comic books for a living?" He goes, "Absolutely." I was like, "Sign me up." And I haven't heard from him since. So if you're out there, I'm still waiting. I like my job of construction, but I would like to sit in a chair and talk about comic books with people for a living. That would be awesome. Heroic Tales #2, Fund My Comic. It is live. Made a couple of sales last night on not West, Yellow Flash. He's so cool. He's so gracious. He gave me like 15 minutes to just promote my comic and talk about it. He was so cool. Bunch of his chat backed my book with close to the second stretch goal. Close to the second stretch goal. Timing is everything. Yes, timing is everything. I thought that said Timming is everything. Timming is everything also. I wonder if this is the retcon faint-sized X-Men with the Muslim girl. Nope, this is the real deal Holyfield. This is the links to genuine comics. Check them out. Wow. I usually have to filibuster for like 20 minutes to get enough people before I start talking about the comic. And my phone is buzzing. Let me just turn off the notification sounds because we don't need that going on. Okay. There we go. So, I got to trim my mustache and my beard as I take a sip of coffee. Gross. So, Saturdays and Sundays, I do most of my writing. Although this week I've been inspired and I did a little bit of writing every day. I'm rewriting the Patriarch #1 because I keep having a better idea or a better way to say the existing idea. I'm pretty proud of what I wrote, but now I want to go back because I had another idea. So at one point, Dave, do you just say, "I'm done, this is it"? You know what I mean? Like, I'm nowhere near starting the art because Renzo's still finishing the art on Heroic Tales #2. As soon as he finishes that, he'll start working on Patriarch #1. But he's also doing Aaron Sparrow's Kneel Before Doomface 2, and I think that might get priority because I think he gets more money for that, and I don't blame him. But so when do you stop tinkering? When do you say it's done? The Printer's Devil, like I said, I just had this idea. And just little minor twerking. Yeah, I twerked in it. You're gonna see Stippling Vaughn drawing me twerking. I did a little tweaks, mostly because I had the story, but how to. And then I was torturing myself on the dialogue because it's supposed to be 200 years ago. And then I decided I'm just gonna write the story. I'm just gonna fill in the dialogue with words and to the information that's needed to tell the story, and then I'll sweat the dialogue when I'm actually doing the lettering. At least I could have it done. You know what I mean? Because I was just killing myself. Because you get to change the dialogue anyway. I don't know what you do, Dave, but I write a comic, I write the script, I send it to the artist draws the script, I send it to the colorist colors the script, and then when I get it back, I have like an iPad right over here. I put the script on the iPad and I put the art Oh, no, I do it. I put my computer over here, and I put the iPad with the art, and I just look at it, and I read the script, and I write a new script that I send to Bill, the letterer. So I call it the lettering script, and it has the dialogue, because sometimes the art changes, sometimes because of the panel layout, it doesn't make sense. So you always have to basically rewrite the comic once it's the art is done. So that's when I'm going to do the final script, the final dialogue for the Printer's Devil, because at least it'll be done. You know what I mean? At least it'll be done. I'm torturing myself trying to get the perfect dialogue when Stippling already changed a couple of panels around. He's the visual guy. So, you know what I mean? I'm killing myself when I'm going to have to redo it anyway. So let's get at least it'll be done. So Dave, I'm just asking, do you do that too? And Dave, English is his second language, and he still does it. He still does it. Tai Ming is one of my favorite kung fu characters. Sounds like a drink. Zach 10 says, hail y'all. Hope you're having a blessed day. Hey, Gray Wolf's here. I'm loving seeing all the names. It's a challenge to get the page layout and flow correct while leaving spaces for dialogue. I imagine. Sometimes I haven't did it in your script, Stippling, because this is the first time we're working together. But sometimes with Renzo, I'll like say, like, put this character in the corner so we can put the dialogue, because I know that's going to be a lot of dialogue. Like, Renzo gets the script with the dialogue too, but he appreciates a lot of direction, and I understand now why, because I don't want to embarrass Renzo by telling him a story, but I'm not going to mention. Somebody hired him, and he hired him at literally the same exact time that I hired him. And this guy you couldn't please him. Whatever Renzo drew had to be redrawn. Like, and I'm not talking about just because Renzo does digitally on layers, so he could just remove a layer, fix it, But this guy was like he had to restart. So he said he got paid once, but he spent 3 times the amount of time and 3 times the amount of work on a page as everybody else. And he just told the guy, "It's like, listen, I can't work like this," So I send him scripts, and Stippling could back me up. I think I can only compare myself to myself, that I put a lot of detail into each panel. The only thing I don't do, like, I'll put the word process or whatever the hell call it, Microsoft Word, a page, and they'll just say page 1, and then underneath panel 1, this happens. Panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, panel 5 on a page. I don't necessarily tell the artist this is a big. Sometimes I do, but most of the time there's 5 panels, and I let the artist arrange the panels, which one's bigger, which one's smaller. But sometimes I'll say, like, this needs to be a big panel. Obviously this is a splash page, this is a 2-page spread, things like that. But for the most part, let the artist do the visual Tetrising, because that's what they're better than that me. But sometimes I'll this is a little like, there's a 2-page in Sleeper Agent that's, I think, the most complicated pages I ever wrote, and I drew a map. I would get up and get it, but it's in the comic book group. I drew a map of how the panels should look, because there's literally things happening behind the panels. It's kind of like meta, man. It's meta. So, like, I drew a map, and I sent that to Luke, and Luke is nowhere near that page yet. So I bet when he gets to that page, there's going to be questions. But so now that I got Stippling here, does my script make sense? Does it, you know what I mean? Like, any criticism? But back to the Renzo story. So this guy, Renzo is a good guy, man. He felt bad, but he had to nope out of this guy's work. So then this guy, I didn't know who he existed. I didn't know who he was. I didn't, and it's none of my business who else Renzo's working with. He's not my wife. He's just the guy I work with, whom I love. You know what I mean? But Renzo's got kids. He's got to pay those bills. So I don't begrudge him working for anybody else. But this guy messaged me, "Thanks a lot." What did he call me? A fart sucking asshole or something like that. And you just destroyed my dreams of making a comic book. You're jealous that I was working with Renzo and you don't want Renzo work. I was like, dude, I don't know who you are. I don't know anything you are. And I said, and I don't tell Renzo who to work with, and I don't tell Renzo who not to work with. It's none of my business, you know. And I said, I wish you luck. And he would not stop. He sent me emails and emails and emails, you know. And I out of curiosity, I just wanted to know who this guy was. I found out who he was. I found out that I'm not the only person who has a problem with him. I wish him the best. You know, when somebody's a jerk to you, they're just nasty to you. You want to be like, oh yeah, and your mother. You know, you just want to like verbally smash him down, especially on the internet. This guy was so insane. I was just like, I felt bad for him. Like, this is legit mental problems. I know everybody like, oh, that guy disagreed with you on the internet. He's got mental problems. But this was that bad that I was like, I said, good luck, buddy. Good luck. You know what I mean? My standard is I'll get my wife to pray for you. She's good at praying. You know, I'm so bad at that, it'll probably cause the opposite. So there you go. A lot of personal details in this story, but basically, Stippling is how do you enjoy the way I do my script? Any critiques? And Dave Brink, do you work like that too? Okay, next question. Oh yeah, dialogue gets edited even when the book is fully lettered. Just seeing the complete book inspires some editing. Yes, I'm glad you said that, Dave. I left out so my first comic, I did the final dialogue. I sent it to Bill. We put it to bed. Bill Williams being my letterer. And then he also makes the final format for the comic for me. And then I published. There was a couple of typos that I counted 3 typos. One typo nobody will probably get because it's my friend Jamie Griffin. I spelled his name wrong. Now I hired an editor, so I told Bill that I was hiring an editor. So he did like an easy fix lettering job. Like it wasn't finished, you know. So like it was like it didn't look right, but it had the word balloons placed and everything like that. And then I sent the file to an editor, and she read everything, corrected my typos, and then gave me suggestions on how to rephrase a couple of things. And I took all of her suggestions. So I cross my fingers. Issue 2 shouldn't have any typos. You know, you got to get better. You got to get better. Sometimes I also know the dialogue isn't up to where I want it to be, yet the scene itself won't change visually. So yes, exactly. That's a good way to explain it. That I know that the dialogue is bad in the printer's devil. Not that the dialogue is bad. It's just that that's not the way they speak. It's 2 modern characters or 3 modern characters or however many characters. It's modern characters talking. Once I see the script, and once I know how much space is it in each thing, I'll worry about that. As I tell my wife, I'll worry about that when it's time to worry about that. Does giant size refer to the comic book itself? Because Wolverine is not famously tall. Yeah, well, it's a double-sized, big 68 big pages, not none of the small pages. There are old English translators online. Playing with one now. Yeah, I try to avoid that stuff. I do use Grok a lot. Like this is funny. In one of the pages, I said in one of the panels, I told Stippling that one of the guys lays in the living room near the fire in his long johns to go to sleep. It's May out in the woods in 1787. Imagine it's a little bit chilly. And Stippling asked me, did they have long johns back then? I was like, good point. I don't know. I always assumed, there would be maybe not longer. So I Googled it, and Google gave me a big essay. They did not have long johns, but they had long underwear, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they had effectively long underwear with the trapdoor on the hiney, but the brand long johns didn't exist yet, So yeah, there we go. An apt description. Okay. Stippling is giving me feedback. I love this. You've given me a lot of freedom, but that's why it's so important to share layouts so I don't go off the reservation. Yes, Yes, because Stipling's a professional. He's doing. Renzo does it. Marcus does it. Oscar does it. You know, they and Tonic Bowl. I'm trying to think of everybody that I work with. They'll send me the layout because I can only imagine how frustrating it must be for the artists to draw something and then be like, no, that's not that's the there was 2 times. I don't know if Renzo, if it was a language thing or one time I just because the patriarch was standing and there was a billboard just right behind him, and it was just too distracting. I said, and I was up all night going, oh my god, I got to get rid of this. It's driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy, and I was wondering, I didn't realize how Renzo worked, so I'm like, does he have to redraw the page? Do I have to pay him again to redo? Because in the pencils it didn't look too bad, but the finished ink, it was really distracting. So I asked, and he was like, okay. And then, like, I'm not even joking, like a minute and a half later, he shows, I was like, how did you do that so fast? And he just said 2 taps. And I didn't know what he meant, but he meant 2 taps. Literally, the first tap, second tap. I guess the first tap brought up that layer and the second tap erased. I don't know, but it was digital. Yeah. So anyway, what Stipling's saying is he sent me rough pencils of like basically layouts of the panels and then little dirty little sketches of what, you know what I mean? And then I say, yeah, because he doesn't want to ink it. He doesn't want to finish it. And then I'm like, on second thought, could you do? And I don't want to have to pay for a whole nother page. You know what I mean? So yes, communication. And that's what bothered Renzo so much about the guy in that earlier story is I know how Renzo is. He must have sent him the page layouts and the guy approved him and then changed his mind. So there you go. JP Fawn says, a kind prayer for a maniacal stranger. Yes. Dave Cockrum was Dave Cockrum's costume designs were amazing. He does. Dave Cockrum, just before this, he redesigned the Legion of Superheroes and some of the greatest costumes too. One goal when lettering is to reduce the amount of dialogue on the page, not add to it. Absolutely. Brian. Mike Barron said the same thing to me. I used too much dialogue. And the funny thing is, in Heroic Tales #1, I was struggling sometimes to because I was like, this reads too fast. There's not enough dialogue. So, who am I to argue with Mike Barron? This guy comics pays his bills. Gave him his successful life. You know what I mean? But I felt Heroic Tales #1 didn't have enough words. I'm not gonna say dialogue, like captions and things like that. Hail all! Google is awful. Yeah, I don't Google anymore. I use Grok. I do not use Google at all. I don't miss it. I use Grok. It's just so much better. Saludos. Good morning. Hey, we just talking. Oscar is he just sent me I might as well do a little spoiler. It's not really a spoiler. I already put it on on X. But check this out. How cool is this? Am I sharing? No, I'm not sharing yet. Okay, check this out. Oscar just sent me this. So this is the Silver Age. I must make a distinction. This is the Silver Age Bikini Girl. Just melting some commies. She's just radioactively melting commies. And God bless her heart that is being supported by a lovely, lovely bikini top. So I say the Silver Age because the Silver Age Bikini Girl has blonde hair and a red bikini, whereas the Golden Age Bikini Girl has a red hair and yellow bikini. And I make a point because Eddie Pagano, the hero of Eddie is Doomed, explains how simple it is to keep track of all of this stuff, But look at this. So what is this? This is a mock cover. So Eddie in the comics is reading one of the covers. So I asked Oscar, I was like, make a couple of like mock covers that could be in the comic itself. So he's having some fun. So I requested Bikini Girl And then the second one, I was like, do whatever you want, do whatever makes you happy, do whatever looks fun for you. So there you go. That Bikini Girl logo was made by DC Miller, who is working on a Golden Age Bikini Girl first appearance comic that he just wanted to do it. So he just asked me, he goes, John, can you send me a script for Bikini Girl and I'll start working on it? And I was like, I don't even have a fit for schedule. He goes, that doesn't matter. Just send it to me and I'll work on it and do whatever you want with. I was like, holy mackerel, I'm going to turn that down. So it's so good. It's so funny. So I made the origin of Bikini Girl. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So I think in a future issue of Heroic Tales, I'm going to have Renzo do like a little framing sequence of his family reading comic books. And then they cut into kind of like what Mr. Monster used to do in the 80s, do things like that. But look at that. That is great. Look at the colors. I don't know. I could look at that all day long. Just got, make some like fake, because it's supposed to be Top Comics. So like make a fake 12 cents Top Comics, make it look like a 50s comic. That is so good. That is so good. Where's the comments? I lost my place. It was Oscar. Ooh, wow. A lot of comments. Where did Oscar go? I didn't delete his comment, did I? Scrolling down, turn it into the Golden Age. Oh, here we go. Here's Oscar. Okay. J.P. Vaughn. I was inspired for my writing by Chuck Dixon when he said he wrote out of ignorance. If you just do the work, it'll come in terms of its own way. The more you ponder about it, the less is. I suffer from pondering about it too much. I definitely not wearing any underwear. I think about it way too much. And my other problem is I can't write when I'm tired. I have a physical job. I wake up early in the morning. I wake up at 4 a.m. I go to work. I come home. I'm beat. If I start writing when I'm beat, it's just a chore and it sucks and it becomes a job. Like, my job is my job. Writing comics is my fun hobby that I hope to continue doing, but I have no illusions of it supporting my life. I just hope that it's able to support itself. And I think if it becomes something that I dread, I don't want to do it. And I don't think you're going to want to read what I write so I only write when I'm enthusiastic and happy to do it. So it turns out to be Saturdays and Sundays, but with the exception of this week I've been very productive after work, which is odd because I'm doing overtime, but I'm just like, oh, I got this excited. I was just talking to Brian Bao yesterday and he gave me he goes, here's an idea for a comic. Take it, because it's a superhero idea and I don't do superheroes. And we were just laughing about this. Now I can't stop thinking about it. Thanks, Brian. No, it is good. So I'm going to, if I ever write that, well, I will write it, but if it ever shows up in a comic, because I have no place in my schedule for this at all. It doesn't fit into the grand story. It doesn't fit into anything. It's just a fun, amusing superhero story. So if I ever do it, I have to thank Brian for the inspiration. And I don't even want to talk about it yet because you'll see why. That's some challenging foreshortening work. It was just a long-winded way of saying just do it when someone like Chuck Dixon says it. You get yes. Chuck Dixon inspired me too. He's an inspiring guy. I understand about being tired. It messes with your focus. Absolutely. Tony Grigo says, great issue. All right, so I'm all caught up with the comments. We got plenty of people watching. I've been filibustering for half an hour. Jeez. All right, so let's look at this comic. We got giant-sized X-Men #1, the senses-shattering first issue. So let's talk about the meta, the real world. X-Men has been on a verge of cancellation for I don't know, 10 issues or so a year, maybe even longer, because people don't realize how bad the X-Men was selling. So Marcus is in the chat. Maybe Marcus can tell me, what issue did the X-Men start becoming a reprint? So the X-Men just stopped making new comics and then it just reprinted its own comics. I think it was from like 60 something to 93, and it was bi-monthly. I do not know why X-Men wasn't just canceled. I don't know why they didn't just cancel it. So it was every other month and a reprint comic at this point. And I guess they were just like, go big or go home. And like, I'm gonna reboot the X-Men with all new characters. So here we have the original. Oh, I just knocked into my camera. So here we have the original X-Men. We got the Beast, we got the Angel, we got Cyclops, we got Iceman, and we got Marvel Girl. And now we got the new X-Men designed by Len Wein and Dave Cockrum. So Len Wein already brought us Wolverine in an issue of the Hulk with Herb Trimpe, and I think designed by John Romita. And then everybody else, this is their first appearance. So of course we got Nightcrawler, we got Thunderbird, we got Colossus, we got Storm, and Cyclops. Yes, okay, I was waiting for this. X-Men was a reprint from 67 to 93. So, geez, why'd they even make it? I mean, the reprints were doing okay because I don't want to say it's pure profit because somebody has to do that work. It's not like they just push a button and it comes out. But it must have been profitable enough to keep it public. Obviously, it was. So let's take a look. Let's open up. So here we go. This is the actual comic. This isn't a reprint. We got Fishing Tackle. And we got, what year is this? 1975. Second Genesis. That's a pretty darn good splash page if ever I saw one. So we got Len Wein, writer and editor. That's kind of weird to edit your own stuff. I've learned the hard way that editing your own stuff is a mistake. Dave, you're in there. What do you think? You get an outside editor, right? Editing your own stuff. It's just you don't. The thing is, you have it, and I did this. I absolutely did this. You know what you meant, so your brain glosses it over. You don't pick up the awkwardness. You don't pick up the typos because a lot of times when you're reading, if you know what, like you just look at the first three letters of a word and you finish the word. You know what I mean? Because your brain is faster than you're reading. So Marvel had a policy: you don't edit your own stuff. So we got Len Wein, Dave Cockrum, co-creators, Glynis Wynn, colorist, John Costanza, letterer. So Dave Cockrum is the illustrator. So that means he's penciling and inking here. My memory is playing with me. I thought somebody else inked it, but we got Dave Cockrum doing all the art. Glynis Wynn, the colorist. So this is a family project because Glynis Wynn is the wife of Len Wein. I think her name was originally Glynis Oliver, and she got married, became Glynis Wynn. John Costanza. I know it's not right, but I always think of George Costanza. Serenity now. Look at this. So we're from the ashes of the past, there grows the fires of the future. So if this flopped, this would have been the end of the X-Men. Right? Going forward, this procedure to the page, then the comments, the page, and then the comments. So let's see, everybody saying hello. So yeah, the last comment that I saw was X-Men was a reprint. Thank you, Marcus. I knew you'd know. That is a great cover. By the way, the characters bust out of the page has been done before, I believe. Here, as far as the only other time before this that I can think of, and I'm probably wrong, is Batman holding up like a ring and Robin's jumping through it, busting out. But this is the comic that everybody emulates. This comic, Superman #1 and Spider-Man Amazing Fantasy 15 are like the most copied, most homaged comics. And I don't like homage covers, although I did it once, but I haven't released it yet. So I do have an homage cover. And for Patriarch #1, I already told Renzo we're going to do a regular cover, and then we're going to do a Superman Action Comics #1 homage cover. And Renzo's going to draw both of them. And it's kind of fun, and it's kind of mercenary at the same time because Jason Sanborn told me that there's a whole collector's market of people who just collect Action Comics #1 homage covers. So I'm hoping to attract those people. This is the first time that I'm openly admitting I'm doing a gimmick. Forgive me. You don't have to buy it. You know what I mean? It'll be crowdfunded. You could order it, then I'll print it, but you don't have to buy it, and I understand if you don't. I only have a copy editor. There you go. Yeah, my editor doesn't tell me to change the stories and stuff like that. My editor, she and she loved Mary Sue. She didn't read the Patriarch yet because it's not ready for editing. I got Vaughn Coleman to edit my stuff. It's helpful to get a second pair of eyes. There you go. David Cockrum is the greatest. I agree. I love David Cockrum. Marvel wanted to keep the publishing spot on the newsstand. There you go. There you go. That's why they didn't cancel it. Thunderbird and Sunfire never felt like they fit in the X-Men to me. Yeah, I think Thunderbird would have fit in, but next issue they killed him off, which is really shocking. Really shocking. And they wanted to keep the X-Men title alive. I keep my homage covers as variants. There you go. That's what I'm going to do. Then this comic is appropriate because with the Superman Fantastic Four movies, they have to hit it out of the park. Yeah, I agree. I met Dave Cockrum at Seattle Con in the late 90s. Excellent gentleman and artist. We talked for over an hour, and he signed my books, no line. That is awesome. The original Teen Titans had a cover like this one, which shows Wonder Girl jumping out of the... Yes, you're right. You're right. That's another one. I forgot about that one. All right, so let's change the page. So here we got Nightcrawler story. Winseldorf, Germany. Nestled deep in the Bavarian Alps, this tiny village has hardly changed over the centuries. So now, we're transported to like this mythical, quaint, hammer horror Brian Bow village where Nightcrawler lives. It's so appropriate that a being that looks like a demon lives in this gothic horror town. Monster, is it the fools? It's they who are the monsters. Perhaps, so what are they doing? They're chasing Kurt Wagner around. They got torches. It's just like right out of the Frankenstein Fireband, chasing them around. And what is note Nightcrawler? He's not teleporting. He's not doing, he's just a demonic looking acrobatic based hero right now. People holding up crosses. He's jumping around. He's not teleporting. He's just acrobat man. He jumps into him and starts fighting, and they're beating the crap out of him. Bring the steak. That don't sound too good. And look at this, Migo. I had all four of these. As a kid because I had to get them. I was like definitely manipulated by advertisements. So, I turned the page without addressing the comments. Hey, Marcus, sorry I missed your message earlier. Okay. Thunderbird was one of my favorites, but he died too early. Yeah, I agree. He overlapped Wolverine. From what I heard, they wanted to have a character die to show like we mean business. And Thunderbird was selected because he was too much like Wolverine, overlap. I sat next to Cockrum as my first guest in Rampart. Cool. Apex, how you doing? I really dug Thunderbird as I'm always down for indigenous representation. I just like Thunderbird because it's a great name. He had a cool costume. I mean, Dave Cockrum, his costume design can't be beat. And I like the power set. So I didn't mind when they brought back his brother, as Thunderbird. I felt that name didn't get enough use. So what's going on? Stop. They're not moving. What's happening? And here comes Xavier. Just, I happen to them, Kurt Wagner. My name is Charles Xavier. Why? And then he just tells them, I'm a teacher at the School of Mutants. I've heard that you are a mutant, Kurt, and I can help you find your true potential. You can help me be normal. After tonight's misfortune, Kurt, do you really want to be normal? Perhaps not. I only want to be a whole Kurt Wagner. If you can make that teacher, I will go with you. So, note, Nightcrawler, there's a stake right over here. He was about to be murdered. He did not teleport. You know, Nightcrawler was Dave Cockrum's favorite, and it was just like every issue they discovered a new power for Nightcrawler. You know, and this era is my favorite Wolverine. Wolverine was just the foil to Cyclops. He was just the nasty, untrainable stab man. You know, mysterious, didn't have a background, and that was it. You know, and later on he became, you know, John Byrne took over. John Byrne liked Wolverine the best, and really played up Wolverine, and the rest is history. You know, and I don't know. I like, to me, Wolverine works best as a foil to the stoic leadership of Cyclops. You know, so there we go. I could talk for an hour on that, but this is a big comic. So now we cut to Quebec, Canada. You know, Wolverine is fighting with Department H. And Xavier's over here. He goes, eventually, top press is pressed. All I know is that Xavier is here to make you some sort of offer. Yeah, I'll come straight to the point. I know of your recent battle with the Hulk, and moreover, I know of your powers. You, my friend, are a mutant, and I have need of mutants. Desperate need. So, given that Department H took a mutant Wolverine and then put this adamantium claws in him, you know, stuff that we know now, at this point, they didn't. Would it be fair to say that Xavier must have used some sort of psychic powers to manipulate Department H, because they kept coming back for him? You know what I mean? Why did they let him go? I never trusted Xavier. It's a character that just I just find him to be creepy and manipulative. I think it's just my distrust of mind control and telepathic powers. To me, those are like villain powers. You know, I'm trying to think. Yes, I do have a telepathic hero. I did not introduce him yet, although he's referenced in Marshall Strong's comic. My buddy Mike has his own comic on Thunder Zone. Joseph Turner. He's a telepath, and he is like the nexus of all. Matter of fact, that's his superhero name, Nexus, but we can't use that because of Mike Barrett. It's okay to use names like that in your own stories, but I couldn't use his superhero name of Nexus in my comics. It's just too associated with that character, you know, things like that. But anyway, he's got problems, but I like how I differentiated him from Xavier. He can't turn off his telepathy. Joseph Turner, in my world, he can't turn off his telepathy. So he's constantly reading other people's thoughts, and he can't stand it. So he takes drugs to turn off his telepathy, and he became a drug addict. He became addicted to the drug because it's the only way he could have peace. So he hates using his telepathy. He has to and then we need telepathy. We need Joseph Turner, and he has to go and dry out. You know what I mean? Take another drug to get his body to burn up the drug that's already, and he's just a wreck. He's this emaciated, horrible existence guy because my distrust of telepathy. But there you go. All right, let's adjust the chat, and then I'll turn the page. Where are we? Warpath is a good alternative. Thunderbird's death was the beginning of a comic trope. Warpath, yep. Sabretooth also has similar powers to Wolverine, yeah, and then they later on made them brothers. Hello, Nightcrawler is kick-ass. I love Nightcrawler too. I love all of the original X-Men. Oh my god, they're so good. In G.I. Joe, one of my favorites is Spirit, an indigenous character. I hope you get around to great guest appearance by Spirit in one of your G.I. Joe readings. I'm about to read G.I. Joe number 2. I'm probably going to read it today. I thought Kick-Ass was Kick-Ass. Spirit had some cool storylines. Who would win, Raven or Doctor Strange? Which Raven? The Teen Titans Raven? She would get destroyed by Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is, I think, the second most powerful of all of Marvel's superheroes, the first being Silver Surfer. Got to get some writing done. We'll watch a replay. Have a great day, everybody. See you around, Dave. Just mentally boosting his crits. That's still manipulating. That's like Superman picking up somebody while making the decision to intimidate them. You know what I mean? That's Superman using his powers to override somebody's agency. And, you know, if Xavier is increasing his charisma, He's using his powers to decrease other people's agency. That's a villain thing. I guess Xavier isn't the right pronunciation. I always said Xavier in keeping with the X name. Yeah, I don't know. I always say Xavier just because I know people with that name and they say Xavier. Some of them say Javier. Some of them say like Javier, but Xavier is what I've always pronounced it. Good morning, OmniPro. Apex Comics, FemBet, check it out. I backed. Yellow, yes. Oh, why calls it kick-ass? Xavier. That's you say Xavier. What did they say in the '90s cartoon? Did they say Xavier? Because I remember that was like an ongoing battle. My friend Carl said Xavier. I said Xavier. Let's call the whole thing off. Drawing a bald guy at sharp edge makes him not trustworthy. Yeah, especially when you're lusting after a teenage girl in your first appearance. There was a telepath in anime that couldn't turn off his telepathy, so he constantly listened to his earbuds. There you go. But your earbuds are your ears. You know what I mean? Your thoughts are your thoughts. Turner uses Narcan to get straight. Probably. I never actually named the drugs. That's a classic scene with Nightcrawler. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Teen Titans Raven, she has chronokinesis on top of her other. What is that? What is chronokinesis? Time manipulation? Xavier starts with an X at this. Yeah. Yep. Xavier is one of the weirder pronunciations. Someone in my family has Xavier as a middle name. Yeah. I know my child, not my child, a girl that I dated in college is now married, and she has a son named Xavier. And the girl that I dated in college, her next door neighbor, their last name was the Xaviers. So I say Xavier. Yeah, but whatever. In Dreadstar, a girl is rescued that's possessed, repressed psychic, though the reason they are repressed is because of childhood trauma. Xavier. I mean, the patriarch has psychic powers, but he can't read minds. Yeah, he has telekinesis, and he has like what I call clairsentience is the name that I give the power. He could send his senses out of his body, almost like an astral projection. It's basically astral projection without the astral projection. I should just call it astral projection and make it easier for people to understand. All right, so I'm offering a chance for you to become a free agent, a chance to learn to put your powers to great use, a chance to get out from under the red tape and rigmarole. All right, Professor, you found your man. What? Not so fast, fella. The government has invested a great deal of time and money in turning you into what you are, and you're walking out on us, we'll have you locked up. If you don't seem to get my meaning, this is still a free country, isn't it? Well, Canada was a free country in 1975. I don't know so much about now. I'm resigning my commission, effective immediately. Unless, of course, you have any further objections. I didn't think so. Believe me, mister, you haven't heard the last of this one. So why did they even let Xavier in? Like, how did they know? Like, I don't know. So now we cut into Nashville, Tennessee. A visitor to the Grand Ole Opry finds he has a visitor of his own. So look at this panel. So we got Xavier over here talking with Sean Cassidy, better known as Banshee. And we got these three people over here. So we got Len Wein, Glynis Wein, and Dave Cockrum. I always say that whenever there's like close-ups of non-talking NPCs in the crowd, they're usually the artist drawing friends or or somebody like that. But here we got Len Wein, Glynis. If that's what Glynis looked like, good on you, Len. Good job. And Dave Cockrum. So that's the story. I'll help, Professor. Twill be nice to tread the straight and narrow for a change. So this one has a short little story. Like Wolverine gets 2 pages, Nightcrawler gets more than 2 pages, Banshee gets 2 panels. Why? Because he already appeared in the X-Men. What was it, 47? So he has a history with the X-Men, and Marvel readers probably already knew Banshee. So he didn't need. Wolverine did. That is weird. Well, Banshee was in the X-Men, and Wolverine, this is his first appearance in the X-Men. And now we cut to Storm. So Kenya, East Africa, atop a lonely knoll there stands a great stone portal. Men come to it in humility, their voices raised in praise and song and prayer, supplication. Or Oro, great goddess of the storm, their voices cry, come into thee and ease our burden. and the hollow peal of thunder and the moan of lonely winds. The storm goddess comes. I am here, my children. What do you wish of me? There is drought upon the land, blessed one. Our crops wither, our grasses parch. 10 goats and chickens shall we slay in your honor if you only make it rain. Save your beasts, my children, you have need of them. I will do as you lead. Her liquid eyes grow dark, and then the sky grows darker. So Storm is acting like a goddess, creating this, with and look at this face, it's real sinister. But that's what she has, this little temple, and begs the question: how did Xavier get there on a wheelchair? He doesn't have telekinesis. That always drives me nuts. And when the normies are just like, yeah, Charles Xavier uses his telekinesis to read minds. No, he doesn't. He uses his telepathy to read minds. He uses his telekinesis to manipulate matter, but he doesn't have telekinesis. So I just needed a sip of coffee. So let's check out the comp. Okay, JP Fawn says, I know Raven is an empath, but I did not know about her chronogenesis. So it should be called chronokinesis or chronoesis or chronosis, because chronogenesis means she creates time. Words have meaning, ladies and gentlemen. Time control. She could stop time and in theory rewind time with training. That's a really powerful power. That is really powerful. I had to mow lawns and collect soda cans for an entire summer to afford that book. 50 cents? It took you an entire summer to get 50 cents? You got to get better neighbors. Tip better. Mind control, John. That's how Xavier got it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When did Raven manifest her time manipulation? I am so beyond, when it was behind on Teen Titans. I quit Marvel and DC in 2015, but I quit Teen Titans way before that. So I don't know what's going on in the Teen Titans. That's like my 12-year-old pronouncing Mjolnir. She has a number of different abilities, but must control her emotions to use them properly. Now the real question for this doctor: White Raven or Dark Raven? X-Men 28. What did I say? 47? Avengers 47 is the first Vision. While Xavier is modeled after Yul Brynner, so I can understand how you might not trust him. Yeah, he did. He looked like Yul Brynner. Hail Chet. Banshee and his love of country music, a fact that only touched on like 2 times again in Cap 172, where he fights Cap in Nashville. I know. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Even though a Banshee is a female spirit, so Banshee should be a female. Just like Gorgon in the Inhumans, a Gorgon is the name of the race of Medusa. There's 3 Gorgons, and it means bright eyes. You don't argue with Jack Kirby. Now look at all those words. Yeah, a lot of words. Yes, it's good to know that in 1975 in Kenya, Africa, they had they followed OSHA standards so that it had a wheelchair access. You're absolutely right, because can't believe the Neil Adams X-Men didn't say. I know. I know. And here's another. I love Design of Sunfire. Yes, it's one of my favorite costumes of all time. That Abomination costume that they gave him in like around 97. Oh my God. They stripped Sunfire of all coolness and gave him a generically bad costume. Xavier has telekinesis now? All right. There you go. Neil Adams said it did sell, but the newsstand guys saved them in the back to resell. We always pronounce Mjolnir as Mjolnir. Now we just make it. As far as Molinar, I think is the pronounced Molinar, where we get the word ball from. Molinar. I think that's how, but Mjolnir. I bought this comic off the newsstand. I got this comic in a collection. I paid $1 for it. I got a huge collection, and I paid $1 a comic, and that collection is huge, as Trump would say. So I got to do the Trump dance. At some point, Ravager joins the Titans. I have no idea why they're cool with that. That's Slade's. Yes, she joined. I got that series, and then she was quickly like hooking up with Arsenal, or Roy Harper. Roy Harper is like the male hoe of DC Comics. Clobbery Time Banshee versus Black Canary. There's a good one. There's a good one. Oscar, that's a good one. Remind me of that one. I had an idea for an all-new Teen Titans with the daughter of Dick and Starfire and the daughter of the Creeper. Yeah, the daughter of Dick and Starfire is that fat chick from I Am That Starfire, right? I really hated the fact that after this issue, they had Sunfire leave in the 2010. Okay, that's why I don't have that run, or do I? I don't think so. Picked it up at 89 when I was 10. I still have my copy. I got it signed years later when Lynn and Dave and Chris. Nice. All right, so let's turn the page. A lot of comments. We're gonna be here all day. So now Storm running around basically naked. She's flying around, doing her daring do and creating wind and rains in Africa. And Xavier sneaks up on her. Who are you? What business do you have at Oros? I'm called Xavier. You got no clothes on. I'm an old man. You're a young girl. Keep in mind, Storm is supposed to be like 18, 19 years old at this point. She's still a teenager. Yes, I know an 18, 19-year-old person is an adult, but she's still a teenager. What do you have to offer a goddess? Now, to me, Storm was the toughest sell. Storm had like a necessary purpose. She was treated with respect. She was using her powers for the betterment of people. She wasn't selfish. She didn't take the oxen and whatever. She said, save them. She didn't even say like, no, give me cash or fix me up a house or anything like that. She just helped because the people asked. So why leave? You know what I mean? Okay, now I could go stop bank robbers in America. You know what I mean? Like she was to me the hardest sell. You have a land owner, people who do. I offer you the world, and people who may fear you hate you, but those who need you. The world I offer is not beautiful, but is real. Far more real than this fantasy you're living now. Why is she living a fantasy? Did Storm know she was a mutant? Or did Storm think she was blessed by the goddess? You know what I'm like? You're no goddess, or you're a mutant, and you have responsibilities. That is the toughest sell. Come with me, my child. Taste the world outside, and you may find it. I present a most peculiar argument. I sense a deep sincerity in your world. All right, I'll come with you. Perhaps it's time to come. I mean, the only argument is I want to see the world. You know what I mean? Like that is, but like you're not a goddess. Well, nobody else can control the weather. Like to me, that's might as well be a goddess. You're a mutant. Oh, okay. That I'm not a goddess. I don't know. I just find this one to be the hardest sell out of all of them. Now we get to Japan. Osaka, Japan. Two old acquaintances share tea. Right. Sunfire already showed up in the X-Men, so this isn't his debut. I know your feelings towards the Western world, Shiro, and I would not have come, but you require help that only I may give. So I owe you nothing, Professor. Perhaps I owe something to myself. Perhaps it's time once again to hear for the world to hear from Sunfire. Look at that. That is such a cool costume. That is such a cool costume. So, so Storm gets two of the third pages. He gets 2 panels, and now we get 2 Colossus. Lake Baikal, Siberia. It's been a good year for the Ordinsky Collective Farm. The crop has been larger than expected. The wheat fills the sky, blah, blah, blah. And here we got Colossus. So he's already huge. He's a farmer. I love how he has a pitchfork. You don't use a pitchfork in a field. You use a pitchfork for, but what do Marvel guys from New York know about farming? Look out, your sister. Oh, I got so caught up in the comic. Wow. I'm loving these comments, guys. This is going to be a long one. I picked it up at 89 when I was... I already saw that. Phantom Outsider, how you doing? Canary would lose. Not only can Banshee fly, but his voice can liquefy matter, steel, concrete, not something Canary is capable of. Love that Storm. DC retcon Dick and Starfire's daughter. Yes. Yeah. Dark... What do they call it? Darkfire? In Kingdom Come. And then... I know, I'm being silly. As a child, I was confused because Mexico reprints Kirby's X-Men and this one at the same time. Oh, that is weird. That is confusing. I didn't think of that. Plus, Storm was naked. Sunfire was the hardest sell as He was almost as xenophobic as Neymar. Guy hated leaving Japan. Yeah. Yeah. He he's got this hatred of the West kind of thing. And he got his powers from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So like he's got a legitimate gripe against the West. He's a Sino supremacist, and but at the same time he is honorable. And Xavier asked for help, and for him to turn it down, he would have been like, "I'll come and help you," basically to show you that you need my help. Storm did not know she was a mutant. Yeah, she thought she was a goddess. She thought she was a goddess. Love Storm from that shot with this one up here. That is great. That is great. Hey, Crenshaw, the patriarch himself has showed up. Good morning, John. Chatting pals. How you doing? Didn't Charles use his telepathic abilities to read the mind of a telekinetic and learn how to use telekinesis? Did he? Did he? As far as I know, I don't think I have any power comics where Xavier has telekinesis. But I admit that I'm way behind on the X-Men. Colossus had a pitchfork because he was doing Green Acres. Yeah, farm living is the place to be. My first X-Men off the rack was X-Men 170. By the way, Don Heck designed Sunfire's costume from the suggestion of Roy Thomas. A beautiful Storm is never a difficult sell to me. Yeah, I love Storm. Did you see the SCTV skit about CP1 taking over the airwaves of the broadcast? That scene with Colossus kind of reminds me. I love Second City Television. I love SCTV. Asians are, yeah, and they have a hierarchy of race. The Japanese consider themselves the highest on the pecking order, and the Filipinos the lowest. My partner Tuan from Vietnam would tell me about them all. Telekinesis only uses a different part of the brain and cannot be learned. I always loved Colossus as a child, but now he seems very one-dimensional. I still love Colossus. I love all of the original X-Men. Peter Parker, Spider-Man in The Trap. Look at that. So we got evil Vincent Price over here. Catches Spider-Man, and Spider-Man. Where did he pull this fruit pie out of? Look at here he is right here, and now he has a fruit pie. I ain't asking questions. All I got to say is, I think the fruit Hostess fruit pies. I think it's a dingleberry. It's a dingleberry fruit rather than an apple or a blueberry. Don't eat the fruit pie. Don't eat the dingleberry pie. And there you go. But then again, every Hostess fruit pie is a dingleberry pie. So now Colossus sees the tractor is going. There's Alanya. So, Alanya has 2 panels or 3 panels. Colossus transforms. He saves. He stands there and smashes the tractor. Kathwam. He's standing there with his little sister. Peter Rasputin. I wish to talk to you. That voice in my head. Who? You wish to come with me to America? But I possess such power. Doesn't it not belong to the state? Power such as yours belongs to the world, Peter, to be used for good of all. And believe me, your powers are needed. So Peter Rasputin, and that always bothered me because the Rasputin, it's a cool Russian sounded name, but it's the Mad Monk Rasputin. The Mad Monk. It literally means the wretched, or a mendicant beggar. You know what I mean? So it's not a real Russian name. It's just a cool sounding Russian name that I'd like to think that Len Wein knew who Rasputin was and what it meant and how it wasn't a name but used it anyway. But there you go. So now he's going to leave his family. He's going to leave his family. Now, why? This always bothered me. No, your power doesn't belong to the state. Your power belongs to the world. No, it doesn't. His power belongs to him. He's an individual. Colossus's power belongs to Colossus. You know what I mean? Or did Xavier give him the only argument because he grew up as a collectivist that no, you're thinking too small. You're a collectivist, but you're collectively identifying with the small group. You should be collectively identifying with the large group. Whereas me, I'm an individualist. What would have worked on me is if Xavier said, no, John, your powers belong to yourself. It's intrinsic to you as a person. the state has nothing to do with it. That would have worked on me, but maybe Xavier just used the only argument that would work for Peter the Wretched. So, wow, so many comments. This is gonna take forever. I might have to break this into two episodes. Hostess fruit pies. They're a trap of deliciousness. I used to love those fruit pies, but they're so bad for you, especially the dingleberry ones. Don't go there. Ooh, you went there. This fruit pie is warm, like it came from the oven. Comment of the day. Bing, bing, bing. Comment of the day. Asians are Asians. Doesn't matter whether. Nobody's higher than the other unless they smoke weed. I'm not saying it's true. I just tell them what my partner Tuan was telling me. Rasputin is a hard name to forget. Yeah. I really liked when the lemon pie, especially when they had very little lemon. It seems that they chose to name the characters based on how they sounded. Yeah. Let's go to the next page. Dos Devanyanya, Peter. I'm sure any Russian listening to that is now cringing. Do not worry, Mama. I will write you. Goodbye, Papa. I'll make you proud. And then the next panel, the state comes. And but I've since learned something. I have a friend named Jan, and Jan's family grew up in Poland. And during the Holodomor, they were rounded up. No. They were Ukrainians. That's right. They were rounded up, put on a train, and sent to Siberia. And then after the war, after World War II, they were landowners. They were farmers, and now they're living in Siberia, farming in the tundra. They were starving, and the British government relocated them to, I think, Kenya. And they lived in Kenya for a couple of years, Jan's grandparents. And then they came to America as slaves. I'm not joking. They went out to Smithtown over here by me in Long Island, and they worked on a farm for like 7 or 8 years until they paid off the debt. They lived in a barn. They worked on the farm, and and then it was modern day slavery. And then they worked their way up, and not now Jan's obviously not a slave, but indentured servitude, same thing. But they were pissed. They were young, wealthy, landowning farmers in Ukraine. So I bet you, Peter, nobody went to Siberia on purpose. Nobody went to Siberia to farm because they were happy to do it. These people were sent there. So I could see Peter like, I'm getting out of here. This is my only way. I don't have any loyalty to the Soviet Union that took away my family, took away my farm, and sent me to Siberia. Yeah, Siberia is a harsh place. It's a punishment. It's a punishment. So that, to me, Pete is one of the easiest cells to get rid of, to leave. Now we got John Proudstar, the Apache, and he's ashamed of his people. The Apache were meant to be hunters, warriors, not sad-eyed, sippering squaws. They were meant to run free through the crisp plains glasses with the wind blowing through their hair. Once nothing could stand before the Apache. The bison that covered these plains fell like rain before the Apache's skill, the Apache bravery, but never did the bison fall like this. So look at him. He's running, catches the bull by the horns, and Xavier. How in blazes did a cripple get way out here? Good question. He doesn't have telekinesis at this point. How did he get there? Good question. You got 5 seconds to vamoose, White Eyes. I don't want company, especially yours. Don't be too hasty, my young friend. I've come to help you fulfill your dream, to give your pride back to your people. You're a special John Pratt. You're a mutant, and you're needed. You could stuff a cactus, Custer. The white man needs me. That's rough. I owe them nothing but grief. Now beat it. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know you were a coward. I ain't a coward. So there you go. He joins because he insulted him. He's a coward. And yes, these are all stereotypes. Every one of these characters is a stereotype, I mean, Nightcrawler, just look at that stereotypical non-existent German village. You know what I mean? They're all stereotypes. Where are we? Phantom Outsider. If you look at the way they collected the team, it made no sense. They just crisscrossed. Yeah, they were going for diversity. This is literally diversity of the comic, but it worked. Why? Because it was good characters. He's like the biggest stereotype out of all of them, which is probably why they killed him off. But like, the stereotype the comic, diversity for the sake of diversity can work, and it did work. This is living proof of it, because they're creating these characters. And they came up with cool powers, cool concepts, cool backstories, and individual personalities. You know what I mean? These aren't just extensions of their friends and themselves. I hope Xavier sent Peter's money for letting their best farmhand go. Yeah. I think they addressed that at one point. Best order: Wolverine, Thunderbird, Banshee, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Sunfire, then to Corona. But nope. The Apaches were the worst of the Native Americans. They would war with anybody. I don't know enough. I believe it or not, even though I lived out in New Mexico, I don't know enough. I should learn more. I really should. Indentured servitude was big in the early 1900s. Often the Irish were the slaves. Yep. But everyone has white eyes. I thought the same exact thing. The Vanisher was Charles Xavier all along. Chicken. Are you a chicken, McFly? That is art. One creepy avatar. Oh, that gave me the chills. While not Nightcrawler or Mystique, you could stuff a cactus, Custer. Stereotypes work introducing a character, but building a block. Yeah, I agree. I thought Thunderbird as presented would have been a cool counterpoint to Sunfire. Oh, there you go. 2 hotheads, 3 hotheads. Wolverine, Sunfire, and Thunderbird. Marvel as a president at the time wanted a supergroup from all over the world. It makes sense. And it was original at the time. And here we got chapter 2, and when there was one. Look at that. We got the splash page of all the X-Men in their costumes for the first time. Just look at these great costumes. That Storm, that will always be Storm. That is the best Storm. That Colossus costume is great. Look at all of these costume designs. They are awesome. We got Wolverine standing in the back by himself. It's just great. Now, tell us why you dragged us all here. I, for one, am swiftly losing my patience. It was not my intention to waste your time. It's merely waiting for the arrival of he who could explain it better. So, Cyclops, the first. So, he will fill you in on the details. Because the X-Men have disappeared. You 7 are our only hope, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Come on, I might as well show you where it all began. This is Cerebro, a secretly designed mutant detector. It's through this mechanism that we discovered all of you and lost my closest friends. More on this later. The Apache did not war with everyone. They just did not like anyone going on their lawn. Hey, you kids keep off my lawn. It's like I said, I can't comment. I don't know enough. Apparently, according to Zack Snyder, the Amazon were going to be revealed as Kryptonian. Yeah. Yep. I remember that. I wish I owned that splash page. Yeah, you could pay off your mortgage if you did. Notice the 3 area costumes were in the back. Oh, yeah, you're right. Good point. Good observation. Didn't notice that. We got King Fu. I mean Count Dante. Count Dante, the deadliest man alive. Speaking of which, this is a good opportunity to remind you of this. And I have to say this offer only exists in the continental United States. If you super chat or PayPal $5, I will send you a Count Dante Fighting Society card. See, it's modeled after that. Let it be known, as a member of good standing of the Memphis Fist Fighting Society, you are hereby entitled to all adoration and admiration from lesser mortals. And that's legally binding because it's signed by King Fu. The blue suede bruise. King Fu, I love that. DC Miller designed this and did this. And this is limited finish card. They ain't cheap. And, not that I'm begging for super chats, but every dollar does help make more comics. But I also wanted to give you something. Somebody bought one, but it costs a fortune to send them overseas. So he also got a comic, so I emailed him, said, "Can I just put it in your comic when I mail it to you?" And he's cool with that. He's cool with that. So there you go. Perhaps Tai Ming could be Kung Fu's sidekick. King Fu. I'm getting my own character's name wrong. King Fu wants Mary Sue to be his sidekick. Bada bump. That's issue 3 of Heroic Tales. So now we got the original X-Men with Havok and Polaris. You can see the word balloons are the panels rather around it, indicating a break of time. And they're going off in the Blackbird. Cyclops has his original visor. They're going to Krakoa, and they land on Krakoa. And what's going on? Look behind us. I'm ashamed to say I never even saw what hit us. So they land on Krakoa, and they get the whammy. He wakes up in the Blackbird without his visor. He's got no powers. He flies home. What's going on? Where are the others? Because you mean to tell me the X-Men, they're on that? What happened to them? I know nothing, Professor, except that something on Krakoa cured my eyes and deposited me back here. What's going on? His powers are coming back. Blam. So he needs a new visor. So to reiterate this, they detect a mutant on Krakoa, the most powerful mutant they've ever encountered. They go to investigate. They get a whammy. Cyclops wakes up all beat up and clothes ripped, no visor, no powers, flies home, explains all this, and his powers come back. He goes, so now we have to go to Krakoa to find the original X-Men, the mutant that defeated us. Incorrect, Cyclops. Now you go back to Krakoa, not I. I have no part in this fool's errand. Sunfire is like, oh, that's what you want? I don't care about this. I don't care about you and your X-Men. Has nothing to do with me. Cyclops' new visor is way better than the old one. Yeah, absolutely. Krakoa back before it became an island for degenerates. Absolutely. What happened to Krakoa stays in Krakoa. Oh wait, Vulcan. Yeah, reference to another retcon later on. This was the time that Krakoa was a deadly but cool a cool island character. Good morning, what geeks do. Good morning. Krakoa was a degenerate desert island. Yes. We all know what Krakoa did to poor Gilligan and Marianne. Skipper 2. The millionaire and his wife. Movie star. So, I don't understand, Sunfire. We offer you a chance to help your fellow mutants. I don't even like my fellow mutants. That's a great line. We offer you a chance to help your fellow mutants. I don't even like my fellow mutants. I certainly will not risk my life to help them. Well, I feel sorry for you, Sunfire, and I have no time to waste arguing. The rest of us, we have a job to do. So they all pull up Banshee and the Horrible Haircut. Remember that children's book, Banshee and the Horrible Haircut? It seems I have my first taste of mutant camaraderie, and I must say, Cyclops, I do not like it. Maybe you don't notice, sister, but this group ain't exactly a mutual admiration society. I could see why they got rid of Thunderbird. He's like saying the lines that Wolverine should be saying, at this time. So now they're flying and open the hatch. Sunfire. This is just Sunfire. Like he says something, storms off, and then comes back. Why? Because he's an immature, emotional brat. And that works for Sunfire. And he comes in. Chapter 3, Assault Force. I'm going to stop this at 11:30. So, you know what? I'm going to stop this now. We're exactly halfway done. So next week we'll do the continuation. So I'm going to close this. And we'll, again, as long as the chat is going, I'll keep talking. But I don't want to do this for 3 hours. We'll save the rest of Giant Size X-Men Part 2 for next Sunday Comics. Sunfire don't like anybody. Yeah, Sunfire is an egotistical. He's this close to being a villain. I kind of agree with Sunfire. I remember what Krakoa is right on the way to Japan. When are you going to do a reading of G.I. Joe tonight? I'm not going to read it. I'm going to read it to myself. I never read it before. I bought G.I. Joe #2. And I'm going to read it for the first time, at like just reading comics. I might do a video about it. I don't know. You can't leave me, John. I can only talk for so long. So there you go. Let's, like I normally do, I tell people my itinerary for the week. Let's check out my schedule for the week. I'm looking at my calendar. So Wednesday, 7 p.m. I have John Romita Jr., 7 o'clock. And then after that, I'll go on RJ's channel for Comic Book Team Up at 8:30. Thursday at 7 o'clock, I have Mike Barron for a conversation. Friday, I'm going to do It's Clobbering Time at 7 o'clock. So It's Clobbering Time will be moved to 7 o'clock. Why? Because at 8:30, we're going to have a launch party of Brian Bau's new crowdfunder, his art book. So let me put that in there now, because so I don't forget. Brian, It's Clobbering Time. It's Clobbering Time at we'll do that at 7 p.m. and then 8:30, Brian Bau at 8:30. Okay, there we go. I just have to put that in or I'll forget. So there we go. That's my week schedule, and then next Sunday will be the continuation of Giant Size X-Men. Don't be sorry. You're excited. I don't want to tamper anybody's excitement. Always love Sunfire's costume. Yeah, it's such a good costume. I just realized he's not on the cover. That's funny. Indication that he's not going to stay. Here's an idea. A hero who fights with slapstick comedy. Yeah, there was a hero called Slapstick who did exactly that. And then there was another one called Madcap who did that. But there was I think Slapstick was a DC character. Or how did I get you, John Romita Jr.? Well, I've been messaging him for years, and he's not even responded or acknowledged my messages. But Mark Miller asked me. So Mark Miller sends me a message. Hey, John, you have any time for JRJR? And I was like, do I? Sure. So we went back and forth to set up on a time. And then Mark says, we have this crowdfunder. He'll come and talk to you. And I was like, perfect. Excellent. I'm so excited. And then he says, and then, maybe in a week or two, I'll come back on and talk. He's pushing his crowdfunding comic. Well, I must be Mark Miller's buddy. I mean, his daughter came on my channel. We must have gotten along. So that's cool. You mean like the Slapstick, a Marvel? So yeah, he's a Marvel character. And then Ambush Bug, Impossible Man was pretty much over the top. If you could get senior, yeah, I already met John Romita Sr. I've been to his house twice. My partner at work, who got promoted out, so he doesn't do that job anymore. He's promoted. He's a boss now. But he was John Romita Sr.'s and John Romita Jr.'s next door neighbor for years. And he's like, do you want to meet him? I was like, absolutely. So he set up a meeting and we went to Senior's house, and oh my God, it was so good. If anybody is bored later, I'll be streaming with Ray Ramos of the Cryptist. There you go, 7 p.m. Yeah, I'm going to eat, and then I want to finish writing the rewrite for Patriarch #1. Mark Miller, what a nice man and a great writer. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He is Stan Lee right now. He is the living ambassador of comic books. Who else? Who else is the ambassador of comic books right now? If not Mark Miller, who else? You know what I mean? I mean, at the risk of sounding egotistical, all I do is promote comic books, but I'm a tiny fish in a large ocean. You know what I mean? I'm a guppy in the Pacific. Mark Miller is the whale. I'm the behemoth. I would ask JRJ what made him not like. No, I can't even read. Should ask JRJ what made him not make Kingpin Stan Lee character to a bowling pin wearing a crown. Yeah, well, be in the chat and ask questions. Ask questions. I always appreciate the questions. Has Mark Miller ever spoken about it? Yes, he does. He loves Superman. He talks about Superman a lot. he loves Superman. He loves the Silver Age Superman. Yes. So there we go. An hour and a half. We finished half of this comic. The first half was all the set off, and now we got the payoff for next week. I knew this was going to run long, but I just don't have the endurance to do a 3 hour stream, especially since I've been up till 2:00 on Yellow Flash. Got a couple of sales too, and if I may, if you do super chat for a card, you're gonna have to get me your address somehow. So like PayPal at John's Longbox at yahoo.com, $5, because then I'll have your address and I can just drop these in the mail. If you live outside the country, it's more than $5 to ship it. So I have to make this the United States only, or it defeats the whole purpose of doing it. But if you live outside the country and you're physically getting a comic, I'll put it in the comic. You know what I mean? Things like that. And I don't know what else to say. I just realized I'm missing something. I bought seals for them. Where'd they go? I gotta find it. All right. So I got nothing else to say. Good night, folks. Thanks a lot, everybody. This is fun, and we'll continue this next week. I'm so appreciative that so many people are watching. Like, subscribe, support. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. And please, I need support for Heroic Tales #2. I'm just under $4,000. I want to make it to 6,000. That's my personal goal. But more importantly, I'd like to make it to 301 backers. I had 300 backers for the first comic, and I just would like to make it to 301. That way, I'm growing. I could, you want to be growing. You don't want to be shrinking. And I know #2s always have a harder drop-off rate. But once I get issue #2, I'm going to have a bunch of comics. I could go to comic conventions, you know what I mean? Because I'll have 5 different covers for issue #1, 2 covers for issue #2. I could fill up a table, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to go with only one issue. Plus, I used up all my time being injured at work, so I don't have any time off. So there's that. I only have 1 week until January, so I don't know where I want to put that week off. But anyway, I'm babbling. So thanks a lot. I'm under 2K for Fembot. Please check it. And yeah, there you go. As an aside, Rob Hunter got $36,000 for what's the name of his comic? Death Raider. And he said he's going bankrupt. Dude. All I could say is you broke the cardinal sin of crowdfunding. The money that I make for Heroic Tales is not my money. And I don't get to touch that money until the last issue of Heroic Tales is in the mail. Last issue's in the mail. It's gone. I paid for shipping. I paid for printing. I paid for postage. I paid Renzo. I paid Bill. I paid Oscar. You know what I mean? And then you still wait until people like, my comic came damaged. I lost my comic. I hate my comic. I want a refund. You got to wait. And then no joke, like a month after the last issue, then that money, whatever's left over, is do whatever you want with it. You want to spend it on hookers and cocaine, spend it on you want to pay your mortgage with it, or you want to put it in the account for the next issue, which is what I do. So he was spending that money as it came in. And I like Rob. He was on my channel. He's a good guy, but you can't do that. It's really tempting, especially when you break your neck in a car accident and you got no money and you're looking at $6,000, $8,000 in an account, and you're like, I could pay a couple of months of mortgage on this, and not have to worry. You know what I mean? But you can't. That's not your money. It's not your money. It's your money. It's not my money. It's your money until everybody gets the product in your hand. So that's one of the problems with crowdfunding, when crowdfunding is your sole means of support, and I hate to say it, that's what the frog guy did. He was living high on the hog, and now you can't use that money to pay your bills as it's coming in. You can't. You absolutely can't. And it's, that's why guys like Brian Bowe, who has a day job, that's why guys like me, who has a day job, we're going to deliver, because the money that we make is for the comic. There's a couple of guys that I heard that they collected that money and they were like, okay, now I can buy groceries this week. And now I can buy, oh, it's time to print the comic. Oh, I don't have any money to print it. Oh, shipping went up. How much is shipping? Oh, you can't touch that money. You can't. End of story. End of story. It's I could belabor the point. I backed it too. Death Raider. So Heroic Tales 2. It's coming out. Hookers and Coke, oh my. Usually crowdfunding is supposed to support your hobby. Well, I mean, Chuck Dixon uses it as a means of personal income. It's not his hobby. Aaron Lopresti, Graham Nolan, but these guys are professionals with willpower and control and budget and understanding finances. They're mature adults. You can't make your comic and live off the money as it's coming in. That money is next year. You ain't touching that money until next year, if at all. And that's why it's risky, because you don't know what the tariff situation is going to be. You don't know if you're going to be alive. You don't know if you're going to crash into a tree and smash your full neck and then spend all the money on medical bills and more. It's a risk, and I understand you taking a risk. Anything I back is money that I'm willing to evaporate. I backed $150 for a board game called Village Attacks. That money's gone. The company doesn't exist. There's nobody to even complain about. I forget the name of the company. It's gone. It's done. It's $150 that I just ripped up and threw it into the air. But you know what I mean? The thing is, that man who made that campaign, I'm never backing anything from his again. So there you go. I could stop belaboring the point. Fembat, it's a shame because he worked so hard on it for so long. Yeah. I hate to say it, but should have been working. Working hard doesn't mean anything. It's one of the biggest logical fallacies out there. That's the value of labor fallacy. Just because you worked hard doesn't mean you deserve money. And look at this CEO. He just sits at a desk in air conditioning. Yeah, he doesn't work hard. What means you deserve money is value. Value determines money, not labor. The labor theory of value is absolutely wrong. It's a Marxist concept. And I remember arguing, because I'm in a union, and guys are like, we work hard, we deserve more money. I'm like, no, we provide value, we deserve money. Doesn't matter how hard we work. And these guys, they get mad at me. And I go, and I say, okay, go into your backyard on Saturday and dig a hole. Work 8 hours digging that hole. Where's your money? You worked hard, didn't you? Take a shovel and dig a hole. You deserve money. Where's your money? You worked hard. And he's like, well, nobody wants the hole. There you go. Want is what provides the value. And value is what provides, I could go outside and just bang my head against a tree all day long. That's hard work. Chopping down a tree with my forehead doesn't mean I deserve any money. So it's a shame. Yes, you worked hard. What provided that money was that people wanted that comic. And now, the less I say, the better. Yes, crowdfunding money includes production, shipping, and printing, and taxes, and a whole bunch of other things. Replacement for comics. When you crowdfund, the labor, the printing, the shipping, so I have $3,000 to pay for the labor, ship, and print issue 3 of Heroic Tales. What do you guys think? You know what I mean? What do you guys think? Use your logical deduction powers. You know, I that's why I'm out chilling. I got to work smart and hard, focus sweat to achieve your value. Demand your yeah. But value is determined by other people. I could paint. I could paint a painting. I could make a comic book, but if nobody values it, it's worthless. I could have worked as hard as the hardest worker in the world, or it could come easy to me and it's no sweat. You know, like what's his name? Salvador Dali. He would just sign his name on a napkin and get free food. He didn't work hard, but people valued that. You know, it's what other people want that provides the value. But there's the economic lessons for today. So, but thanks a lot, everybody. I got nothing else to say, and I really don't want to spend 3 hours doing the whole comic. I got writing to do. I got food to eat, and my wife wants to do something. So I'm gonna shut it down now. Thanks a lot. I'll see you hopefully Wednesday with John Romita Jr. And then next Sunday we'll continue Giant Size X-Men. So thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.